I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked good. I would call her. Wish I had a rabbit fighter in a hat with a bat and a 6'4" Impala. Welcome to Rabbit Fighters, friends. We're an ever-evolving podcast where once upon a time we would have only focused on cultural touchstones of the film, music, or television variety. But today, we're taking a detour. We're going back into that golden era of the stage and screen where evil fascists lurked beneath the waves, hell-bent on crushing democracy, where men were real men and every able-bodied, red-blooded American lined up to join the service as their patriotic duty, and where goggle-eyed nerds yearned to give up their big city existence to become a fish. Yes, friends, this week we're watching the 1964 Don Knotts fever dream, The Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Fever dream.
It's less of a cultural touchstone and more of a blustery hoopla. I'm Joshua.
Ahoy! I'm Brian.
I'm Greg.
All right, so this one made it onto the list by way of Greg, who has a lot of explaining to do. So, Greg, why this movie? Why now? Why ever?
why
now? Yeah. So, like, all right. So, I grew up in a small town. There wasn't a whole hell of a lot to do. And like, it was the olden days, when they had
not that old.
It's the early 80s.
Yeah. When they had like, three network TV stations and like not much else on TV. If you didn't have cable, you pretty much watched network TV, ABC, NBC, CBS. That's it. And so like they would have these specials that they would do, they'd have this movie Ben-Hur around Easter, they'd play this movie Ben-Hur, this big sword and sandal, like Bible pick, and we watched that all the time. They do The Sound of Music. That was like a appointment TV, The Sound of Music. And then the first, I don't know, maybe it was just the Boston area or something, but like, I think it was around Easter also. They would play this movie.
Was it around Lent? Because you could only eat fish.
Exactly. Which the Boston area is lousy with, so it's perfect.
Case closed.
But like, they had this movie called The Incredible Mr. Limpet, and they'd show it like once a year. And I remember growing up watching this thing every year that we could possibly be there to watch it. And then it like disappeared from the face of the earth as far as, my existence. And it got to be one of those things that you questioned, like the spelling of the Berenstein Bears or the movie Kazam starring Shaquille O'Neal, which didn't exist. You're like, did I just make this friggin' movie up?
Was that the Mandela effect? Mandela effect?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Limpet's on.
The collective consciousness of a country or
made
or
up a Don
region or a world can make something up, and they all agree that it existed, but it didn't exist, right? And I was like, is this one of those? And I have kids now, and I finally looked up this movie in the internet age, and I said to my kids and my wife, like, I don't know. Okay, we should watch it because I loved it when I was a kid. I don't know if it's any good though, because I was a kid. And let's watch it. And so that's how The Incredible Mr. Limpet came back into my world.
Into your life.
It did exist. And you two are here to also back me up on
I can attest to it.
It isn't Kazam. It really did exist.
I will say this about the movie. It definitely exists.
It definitely exists.
I have mentioned to a few people what this episode of the podcast is going to be, and I've thrown it out there expecting that no one's going to know what the hell I'm talking about. But at least in like 50% of the conversations I've had, the people have responded with, Incredible Mr. Limpet? You're watching that? But not with like, but like acknowledging, like, oh yeah, I know that movie. Like that's it's so bad it's good, or it,
How old's the demographic that you're asking? Because I asked
it
my
runs
mom,
the gamut. It runs the gamut.
I sent her a text message. I was like, just totally random. Have you seen a movie when you were a kid called The Incredible Mr. Limpet? She replies back, all caps, yes. and then she's like, oh, That is the quote, my mom. That is the reason that Don Knotts left the Andy Griffith Show. All of us were so mad when he left the show. It was just never the same. How and when did you see that movie? That's
Amazing.
coming from my 70-year-old mother.
I'm going to be a star, you guys. I'm going to be a star.
Damn.
You just wait.
All right. Well, for the folks out there who have not seen The Incredible Mr. Limpet, Brian, why don't you take a stab at trying to break down what the hell this movie is about?
Oh God, there was nothing I would love more to do that. So, but first and foremost, we
Break
just
it
need
down.
to set the mood.
Oh, God.
Wait.
So, the year is 1941, and Henry Limpet, played by every baby boomer's favorite television deputy, Don Knotts, is an ordinary, mild-mannered New York bookkeeper. However, Henry desperately wishes to join the Navy, but has been declared 4F and unfit for duty due to his stigmatism. Although disappointed, Henry finds solace in his deep love for fish. A love of fish, you say? Yep. In fact, Henry wishes he could be like them. Perhaps even one of them. Now, one day, whilst on a day trip to Coney Island with his wife Bessie and awfully shitty friend George, Henry falls off the pier and into the ocean. But Henry can't swim. So George makes a half-assed attempt to save him for about 2 minutes before declaring him drowned and dead and moving in with his wife. Meanwhile, to Henry's surprise, he hasn't actually drowned, but he has magically turned into a fish. But not just any fish, a cartoon fish that wears glasses and can communicate with other sea creatures, including a cantankerous hermit crab named Krusty and a real, spelled with 2 E's, piece of choice salmon whom Henry aptly names Ladyfish because she's a lady and a fish. Anyways, did I mention he can talk? Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. Henry discovers that he has a powerful underwater roar, his thrum, if you will. A thrum? What's that? Why don't you show him, Henry? Oh! Oh, the thrum. Oh!
We'll insert that sound effect.
Which is mirrored. Oh,
So, whoa.
sorry, there's more. That's right.
Take it easy there, fella. Realizing his newfound aquatic abilities, Henry decides to use his unique talents to aid the U.S. Navy during World War II by using his very loud thrum to help spot and thwart enemy U-boat submarines. Now, Henry summons his dipshit friend George, and they combine to make a formidable team in the Battle of the Atlantic. So throughout the film, Henry faces various challenges and adventures under the sea, all while sort of trying to be reunited with his wife on land, despite already heading to the spawning grounds with Ladyfish. The movie combines live action and animation, creating a semi-whimsical and possibly heartwarming story about a very boring man who discovers and weaponizes his fish fetish to make significant impact during a crucial time in history. How'd I do, guys? Did I nail it? Did I nail the summary?
So, totally. Yeah,
I think you got it.
My summary is, of course, a man wishes he was a fish, falls into the water, becomes a cartoon fish, plus Nazis.
I do have to say, like, Don Knotts he's an excellent actor. It's a terrible script. It's a terrible idea for a movie, but he plays it well. Like, you really believe he's this goggle-eyed loser who really wants to be a fish and just wishes hard enough. Like, I was watching it, and my youngest comes into the room and is like, what are you watching? And I was like, oh, you could probably watch some of it. Like, this.
Did you hide it like porn?
This is pretty.
God! Oh God!
This is pretty tame.
Oh.
Tap, 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 tap.
And I was like, yeah, this is about this guy who turns into a fish. And he's like, how did he turn into a fish? It's like, He wished really hard.
He
Magic.
fell in the water. It's just like everybody else that goes in the
And
water.
like he shook his head. He's like, okay. He just like left the room. It's like, yeah, that's a really poor premise, isn't it? Like I could be a screenwriter in the 60s.
I know.
Like I'm not talented. I'm not a very good writer, but I could do it in the 60s. If this movie got greenlit, then I feel like I could have had a shot back
And
then.
this is a book. This is an existing
it's
book
based on a
that
book.
got turned into a movie. From 1942, a book. This guy wrote this friggin' book called The Incredible Mr. Limpet, and they turned it into a movie.
There was even going to be a remake
you could be a novelist and a screenwriter, Joshua.
starring Jim Carrey.
What? Really?
I think they said they were trying to make a remake of it.
God,
Yeah, in the late
why?
90s, they were exploring it, and I think I read somewhere like they even spent like $10 million
Oh my God.
trying to like do the body imaging, just trying like map his body to a fish, and it was a complete disaster, and they just like scrapped the entire thing.
You don't say.
Yeah, but I mean, when I read that
Holy
really pissed me off. It took you $10 million to find out that this was a bad idea. That's $10 million. That's a huge sum of money just down the
I
toilet.
gotta say, $10 million. That's money well spent to figure out to not make that remake.
I think this was the first Warner Brothers Animation Studios film that wasn't like a Looney Tunes movie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm thinking, I spent a long time living in Orlando, and there's, Disney World, which is like Buena Vista, and then there's like this crappy town next to it called Kissimmee, and they have like these like shitty rides. It's like the poor man's Disney. This movie,
Kissimmee St. Cloud.
It's like I feel like this is just like the poor man's Disney movie, like the animation. I was like, oh man,
Totally.
they got the lame ass script and like
The songs too. The songs are like shitty Disney songs.
What?
Where he's like,
What? The songs are beautiful.
they're like.
I don't know what you're talking about. That.
It's like he falls in the water, and they're like, "Be careful what you wish." And they're like, it's basically like, "You stupid fucking dick, you wanted to be a fish, and now you are, but you still need glasses, so it's really
How does
like
that
the
even-
worst of everything." And he's like, he just, and I do. Brian alluded to that earlier. I love the part where like he's just he's looking in the water, and George, who's just like stuping his wife, from like day one.
You gotta
And
figure out what the situation with George is. We gotta talk about that.
like-
Just like,
George is
From the
George is-
first second that guy showed up, like he's totally boning Bessie.
He's
Like,
stupid,
100%.
stupid his wife, and then like but then like Don Knotts comes in from work, right? Like all these like ladies laugh at him at work because he wants to be in the military. He comes home and his wife, who's bananas, by the way, she's got like torpedo breast covers and like platinum orange hair, like, and she's like, "Oh my God, I just came from the Catskills." She's like just shouting at all times, but still, he's Don Knotts, a chicken-necked, goggle-eyed man who can't get into the army and who feels terrible about himself and is really into fish. And like for him, it's like, no pun intended, like a catch, right? Like, hey, it could do quite worse. But the first thing he comes
He's
up
definitely
with work,
punching above
she's
his
like,
weight there.
she's like, "Give me a kiss," and he's like, "Oh, whoa." He just like can't kiss her or something. Like I'm like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? He can't even kiss his wife. And then he just like pulls down the tube to the tank and is like, "Oh, you guys, you look so happy in that tank."
I wish I could kiss one of you fish and instead of my wife.
Exactly. She's like, "Let's go dancing," and he's like, "Oh God, I just got a new tube from a tank."
I gotta go. Oh, I thought we could listen to a symposium on snail sex, and you're like, what?
Yeah, snail sex. He's
We
like,
gotta go.
I guess
Let's
it gets
go to
kind of
Coney Island.
racy, I hear,
Oh.
George. George is like, "Are you talking like threesome racy here? Like, I don't know what's going on here, Henry."
He does have one sick joke there, and he mentions he's a machinist mate, second class. He's like, "So, Henry, what kind of machine you made it to?"
So he can't kiss his wife even, and he stares at fish. So I'm like, no wonder she's stupid this guy. Like of course she's got someone else. He doesn't seem the slightest bit interested in his wife at all, except that he has this weird devotion to her once he becomes a fish for like 11 seconds. He meets Ladyfish, and she's like, hello, I'm a big-lipped, sexy fish. And he's like, well, I suppose we should be together. Oh, but I'm married. And she's like, oh, who cares? And he's like, I'm supposed to. And then she's like, okay, toodles, toodaloo. And she goes away, and he's like, but Ladyfish, I suddenly don't give a fuck. He swims out. And it's like
I hate Bessie.
This Ursula-sized like image of his angry wife in the ocean. She's
I
like,
forgot about that.
Henry, and he just like swims through her like she was the reason he was unhappy or something. Like, oh fuck off! I'm gonna find Ladyfish. Breaks through it. I'm like, this is so freaking weird.
George alludes to the fact at the end of the movie that he and Bessie are happy together. So he clearly was just
like take good care of her,
just sliding in there.
Totally. Well, like the whole thing where he dies, where they think he dies, it's like fucking hilarious. It's like we're having a picnic on the dock. Like, who has a picnic on the pier? First of all, like the lowest rung of like where you walk down to fish. They're just like, let's have a lovely picnic on this low rung of the dock.
I'm sure it smells awesome. Perfect place to have a sandwich.
They're having sandwiches. Don Knotts is like leaning over precariously over the pier, like looking at the water, looking at the dirty fish in there, wishing he could be one.
I wish I was a fish.
And he falls in. Idiot falls in, and it's like, like his bones turn into fish bones.
I don't understand why he has like the screamy voice, like the like
the what?
Ultra sonar, like when
that
was like so.
Don't make me play the sound effect again if you
why,
want.
Why is he an angry donkey?
I mean, you can like reverse engineer it and be like, okay, we need a mechanism here for him to be able to like track down subs and U-boats in the third act.
If you're looking for something that lets him tell them about the Nazis, he can talk. He goes to the sonar thing under the boat, and he's like, hey, there's a Nazi sub right over there, guys. And they were like, you know what would be better? If you screamed your fucking head off.
Like, reading the premise of this and knowing that he's going to eventually, like, help the Allies defeat the Nazis, I thought for certain it was going to be like an Aquaman situation where he's got a network of fish that are, like, feeding him, like, all the coordinates of, like, there's a whole fleet coming from the west, and he goes and tells the admirals, and that's how they defeat them. But so the second he started with the sonar blast, like I just lost it.
Not even one fish. He's got
what is this movie?
One fish with him. That's a hermit crab.
He's got a crab.
He's got a
Krusty.
He's got a crab.
Krusty the crab, who's like doing a Yosemite Sam impression or something.
Oh God! I got you, you son of a biscuit! You darn the torpedoes! I don't like you. Man, I hated this movie. I will say one of the things I noticed that I kind of like enjoyed was the depiction of the actual Nazis. And it's just like it harkens back to another time of filmmaking because there were no subtitles.
Actually,
they were all speaking German.
Yeah,
I know.
They were doing absolutely nothing to explain what they're saying to the audience.
Yeah,
they were just betting that. Well, they're German and they're Nazis. They're probably saying something bad. So that's all you really need to know as the audience. And they just like went with it. I kind of appreciate that they didn't like slap some English accents on it.
I know.
And then call it a day. And so
I totally thought they're gonna do Hogan's Heroes with it, where they're like,
"Yep,
we are having a problem. This is just fish." Like
we need to find Limpet.
Das Limpet.
If we don't find Limpet, the war is over. The Führer is very furious. But no, they speak. That's the one part of the movie they were like, we're going to go legit with these Nazis.
Yeah. We're not cutting any corners on this particular.
If we don't nail the details on this whole movie falls apart. If we don't get these Nazis right. But yeah, I also love the part where George tries to save Henry when he falls in the ocean, right? And he's just like
tries.
He's like, hold on a second, let me get him. He does like 2 little dog paddle routes around and gets out.
What is
I
that
don't
down
know. He's just saying, let me do one more time. One more. We'll go one more.
Nobody can accuse me of not trying.
Then he's like, a fish with glasses? Oh, well, I'm out. And he gets out.
That's New York for you.
I saw a fish with glasses. Henry's dead. And she's like, oh, no, Henry! Oh!
My favorite part is he goes, oh, Bessie, let's go home. He tries
go home.
2 minutes and your husband's dead. Let's go. Like, let's go.
And then they show her later with George in the apartment, and you're like, okay, some time has passed.
Yeah, obviously.
They've gone through the
Years.
mourning process. She's like, she's like, it just didn't seem right to have this tank that Henry loves so much, and we're going to put plants in it, and all this stuff. And then he's like, I can't believe it was just yesterday. He felt it.
He's reading the goddamn obituary to her.
That's right.
You're an asshole, George. Jesus
Such a dick.
Both of them moved on so fast. It's just like, oh, Henry. Oh, jeez. He was my best friend. Wow. What's for breakfast?
Oatmeal again, Bess?
Oh. I made you eggs because I'm so sad about my dead husband.
Who didn't really seem like I liked.
What about his body? Who cares?
Who cares? I'll wash him somewhere. He'll be fish food like he always wanted.
God damn it.
And there's a cop there too. The cop's like, I'm not getting wet. You think I'm going in?
I'm a land policeman.
No, fuck I am.
That's maritime law out there.
No.
What do I look like, a duck?
So great. They
Shit,
reach out to him later. He's like, come to think of it, I saw a fish down there with
I love that he still needs glasses. Why does he still need glasses? He's a fish. He's a fish with an astigmatism.
the entire end part of the movie is
He would have been eaten immediately.
I know. Except for the...
Life is so much better down there under the ocean. Have you been to the bottom of the ocean? It is awful down there.
I love it. The crab. Talk about a wingman. He's like, I tell you what. I'm going to go looking for ladyfish. You stay right here and don't do jack shit and wait for her to come back.
I think the crab was nominated for a best supporting actor.
Supporting wingman.
Oh man. I wonder how much of like an
Call him
influence this
Goose.
movie had on like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I thought you were going to say The Shape of Water.
Yeah, because there was a string of movies where they did that fusion of live action and animation, and I feel like I don't know whether I don't know whether Limpet was like the first one that they did this. I'm sure it's not, but it certainly sounds like probably the most famous early attempt at fusing those two types of filmmaking. But I don't know. I just think about the producers of Who Framed Roger Rabbit all sitting in a room watching Mr. Limpet and taking, the lessons learned. Yes, don't make it like this at all. This was terrible.
The first feature film combining live action and cartoons was The Lost World in 1925.
The Lost World.
It was a Soviet film. No. Yeah,
No. Was it really? Was it Eisenstein?
First feature film combining these forms is Lost World.
I feel like we should have watched that one instead. So what's you guys' familiarity with Don Knotts? Like, did you watch a lot of Andy Griffith? Because I have to admit, like, the only like Don Knotts I was familiar with prior to this was I remember seeing the Apple Dumpling Gang as a kid, and then Three's Company, which I watched a lot.
I watched quite a bit of the Andy Griffith Show. My dad was a big fan of these type of things, like these shows. So he's born in 47. So he used to drive me to school, and he'd make me like. For some reason, he had a long commute, so he had this like TV in his car and the passenger side. And he had all these VHS tapes, and so he'd just like play and listen to them when he was driving, whatever. So he'd put it like Andy Griffith, and plus, I mean, he liked to watch them at nighttime, like Nick at Night stuff. And I've seen that, the Honeymooners, a ton of that, the tapes from what's the Lake Wobegon, the Garrison Keeler, like all that crap. I remember hating it at the time. But yeah, Andy Griffith and those type of things. I mean, just
I need to know more about this TV in the car. Because what year is this?
this was
This is the 80s?
I was in high school,
Sounds
so this was
80s.
90s.
Okay, so the 90s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like
they still didn't have.
remember they had TVs that were there was like a built-in like a VCR.
Yeah, VCR TV.
It was like a little
combo.
13-inch TV with a VCR combo, and he had it on the passenger side in the seat, like the footwell. He wasn't like
So you
driving
could look down.
Was
he
it like
wasn't,
radio?
driving it, watching it? He would just like put the tape in and like listen, like because you can't listen to the audio of the Honeymooners or some other dumb old movie or shows. I love.
I was just picturing this like large TV that was just sort of like wires spliced in to give it power and just like sitting there in the passenger.
I'm picturing 20D batteries like Radio Raheem's radio, powering this giant behemoth of entertainment in your car.
He used to buy all these like box sets of these things. I think they used to sell them at night. Remember these like infomercials for the these beloved TV shows like now you can have all of this the golden oldie
golden horse shit of your youth. Now it's available. Giant box set.
Was right in his Q zone.
I mean, like, it's funny because like this movie is like it's G-rated basically, but it's also weirdly inappropriate and stuff. Like the ladyfish is like,
there's a lot of subtext. That's just
I'm a virgin.
He's
I've
very
never had
sexualized
spawning before. And he's like, well,
yeah. She was like, I'm too young for that.
Yeah. I was like,
what is going on?
It's kind of gross.
This is a very icky situation here.
I'm a knock-kneed old man who's married, but I guess we'll go off and do some spawning. You're like, yeah.
Krusty, hi, can I watch?
Krusty's like, I got a VHS recorder. I like to put it next to me while I...
Want to borrow my shell?
Little peephole in his shell. Curls up in it. Looking at his little peepholes. Wait a minute. What? Conch shell here has holes in it. You're darn tootin' it does.
I think that would have put it up to PG-13.
Been a while for old Krusty.
Like me some ocean porn. What's wrong with that?
Oh,
sorry,
man.
kids. This is supposed to be done with silhouettes and innuendo. We're pushing the envelope here. Henry's phantom wife was like, no.
He does say something nice about her. He's like, well, ladyfish, for a human, she's pretty lovely.
I don't kiss her or even really hardly look at her, but she was a great bookmark in my life.
I want the backstory on how those two met.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
Also, I want to comment on the poster for this.
Yeah.
It has in very large font Glub, which is never mentioned once in the movie.
Never said in the movie.
Like, we've been quoting this leading up to this movie for weeks.
Nobody said Glub.
No one said Glub. What a letdown.
Not even once.
The tagline is, we'll leave you limp with laughter. Jesus Christ.
What an easy just layup.
Tagline. Seriously. Alley-oop right there.
That reminds me of I saw Steely Dan.
No. Stop trying to make Steely Dan happen.
No, but I have the lazy title. Like, they were in Vegas and their concert was called Reelin' in the Chips. And I was like, what the? Did you guys take 3 seconds to come up with that?
Yeah. They're like, we don't care anymore. You do it.
You're going to laugh limp.
You do it. The thing that Joshua has mentioned earlier, where he said this is a fever dream. On rewatching this movie, I was like, does he die? Does he fall into the water and actually drown? And then the rest of this thing is like, because
it's an occurrence at Owl Creek.
Right. It's like, he wanted to be a war hero, right? And there was no way he could. So like, does he die? And while he's drowning, his mind comes up with this like thing where he becomes this superhero of World War II, and he gets a girl that he's actually supposed to be with, and he finds his way.
All while his brain is slowly being deprived of oxygen.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just
slowly being deprived
imagining
of
this reality.
and he has this little universe happen in the last few moments of his life.
So you're saying that Henry Limpet committed suicide?
Yeah.
Does he? Well, yeah.
That's a better movie. That's a better
right?
movie.
Right? That's the dark one where they have Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, he looks over to George having a good time with his wife, and he's like, "Fuck it."
It did cross my mind that the scene where George is out there in the dinghy after like the first meeting with the fish, fish Limpet. And there's like a brief moment there where it's a little creepy. Like you think he's like, "Am I going insane?" And it occurred to me that this would actually make a really good Twilight Zone if Limpet was dead and he was haunting the man in the Navy who's been boning his wife. And he just whispers into the sonar device. And if George was like the sonar, like after hours, like all through the night listening for Nazi U-boats, and he starts hearing the voice of his dead friend who's been boning his wife this whole time, and he leads him into just madness, and he just ends up in a dinghy in there and then drowns in the sea.
But it's
the telltale fish.
The
telltale fish.
That'd be such a better movie than this one.
Yeah.
We should rewrite this script.
Right.
People.
Fever Dream, Mr. Limpet.
I can't think of a better use of our time. Rewriting Mr. Limpet.
It took me no less than 15 times to get through this movie. I kept stopping and I'm like, all right, I'll do 10 minutes. I'll do 10 minutes. It took me forever to get through this.
It took me 2 to 3 times. I think I watched for like 10 minutes on my phone, and then I switched to the TV, and then I watched half, and then I finished the second half like the next day or something like that. But.
And if anyone's curious as to where you can watch The Incredible Mr. Limpet, it's free on YouTube.
1,000% free.
Unless you don't look it up and then you pay for it like a fool, like I did. I rented this fucking thing.
Yeah, the Don Knotts estate a little bit of a couple
Don
cents.
Don Knotts gets another $3.99 or $2.99 or something.
It just goes to George though, because Don Knotts is dead. It goes to George.
Right. It goes to Bessie. It all goes to Bessie. My Bessie.
I agree. I hated everything about this movie, but I liked watching it. It was because it was just so ludicrous. And I grew up watching like Mystery Science Theater constantly. So I've watched so many bad movies in my time. There's nothing better than ripping apart a bad movie.
It's so
I don't think I
stupid.
would have enjoyed this even as a kid. Is this movie just a propaganda movie for the Navy?
It was in the 60s,
in a weird way.
I mean,
it was very heavy-handed on the
But it came out.
Go USA Navy.
But didn't it come out during the Vietnam War though? Where we
Came out in
needed.
the 60s, but
64. So weren't we in Vietnam?
yeah.
Yeah. So like, that's because like, there's always a reason they make this shit, right? Like the book was written in 41 or 42 or something. And so they waited all that time, and like they cranked out like propaganda movies in World War II. Like my dad would always have these black and white movies where it was like these horribly racist Japanese people, like pilots.
Our boys on Iwo Jima.
Yeah. We got to shoot down those nasty
News from the front.
Japanese planes. Yeah. So like they could have cranked this out then, but then like they waited in 1964 to make this thing. And there had to be a reason, right? Like there was
took them 20 years to secure the rights to this gem.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's got to be done just right. They really had to get it past.
Guys, I found a book. You're never gonna believe it. We got to make this movie.
That's why the Nazis lost World War II, is they over-engineered the shit out of it. Like they're trying to go after a fish with a torpedo.
Yeah, I know.
How many hours did you waste in the laboratory? Just get a goddamn net.
And I have to say,
mankind has not yet figured out how to defeat the fish. Like,
Fish.
no, this is the well-worn territory, guys. People have been killing fish for fucking millions of years.
Just use a drift net.
No,
just get him in a drift net.
I love that part where it's just him against all the Nazis, and there's the entire fleet up there, and they're all like, oh, there's something going on down there. Should we fire, sir? I'm like, no, it's too dangerous. Like, you're the fucking Navy. There are Nazis out there, and you know there's explosions going on down there. Like, your job is to like join the battle. And
also,
like, no, it's too dangerous, guys. Like,
also sonar has been invented, but they're like, I don't know, just lower a microphone down for the talking fish. let's just let him do the whole thing.
Put Pickle in a rubber boat out there.
Jesus Christ.
Pickle in a dinghy and the talking fish. They're gonna fix it all. We don't need the
I feel like we need to go back and read the book and find the differences between the book and the movie to see if the book was actually any better. No, I'm not actually going to do that. But
yeah,
it turns out
this is the first and only time I'm going to watch this. At the end, so Henry loses his glasses for the last 30 minutes or something. So he goes to all the way back to Coney Island to get an extra pair of glasses from Bessie and say goodbye to her. And he goes, so Bessie, thanks for being so sensible about all this. Me turning into a fish, and abandoning you in life, and just thank you. Leaves.
No problem, Henry. I'm still screaming for no reason. Oh, Henry,
I'm with George now. Like, oh, Jesus. All right. All right. I'm going to bang Lady Fish. Peace.
Final thoughts on Limpet that we haven't already covered. I don't know. Do we need to grade it?
We have to grade it.
it's tradition.
Gotta grade
All right. Man, on a scale of anthropomorphic plankton to anthropomorphic beluga whale, one of those being better than the other, I don't know.
No.
What is the Incredible's Limpet? I'll go first. This
you go
movie
first. All right.
Sucks on toast. This is a terrible film. It was not charming in any way, shape, or form. It was laughably bad on every level. It had good production values, I suppose. They threw a lot of money at it. It was Warner Brothers, so and they used all the animators from Looney Tunes. So I guess high production values, really low effort for storytelling and plausibility. I can suspend disbelief like nobody's business. But this movie really tried my patience with just any ability to do that. Just so many gaping holes. It was awful. So I'm done talking about Limpet for now. I feel like
what's your grade?
This hurt my soul. Oh, this is an F-.
Oh, wow.
Please no more. But like Dune, I did enjoy watching it just because it was so bad. But it's like so bad. I have no reason to watch it ever again. I feel like I got everything that I will ever get out of it. So yeah.
Be careful what you watch, because it could really suck.
I was trying to think, is this the worst thing we've reviewed so far?
Probably, without a doubt. I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree. Maybe you like this better than Dune. I don't know.
Oh, that's actually good.
Yeah.
No.
Is it worse than Dune?
I'd give this D.
Yeah.
I want to say F, but I don't know.
A D for D's nuts.
Weirding module didn't get Joshua.
No, I can't give it an F because it's a movie for a simpler time. So
yeah,
it's
exactly. Yeah.
I wouldn't rewatch it. I would not force anybody to watch this by any means. But I could see how someone could like this when they're a kid and it's got cartoon fish and shit. I mean, to your point, it wasn't like a complete dumpster fire. Like it had, they tried. So the animation was clever in some cases. So it's like I'll give him a D for the animation. That's about it. Otherwise, it was a pretty terrible movie.
You can imagine where it goes from here.
Yeah, God. Yeah, and that George actor is terrible.
It's so bad. It's like
haunt me.
talking out of the side of his mouth as a character bit.
See?
Stutter a lot and talk out of the side of your mouth, and it's gold.
As a childhood, fan, what do you give it now?
Put this one to bed, Betty.
All right, so I mean, it is not a good movie.
Don't put a lot of thought into this.
Just not a good movie.
Gut feeling. Come on.
Yeah.
It is not good. It is objectively bad. I do have affection for it in some part of my brain from being a kid and watching it. I will give it a D, maybe a D minus for, the cartoon fish looks like Don Knotts. I gotta say, like they did a pretty good,
True.
And they didn't spend $10
simulation
million trying to do that.
of Don Knotts. It loses points for the weird pedophilia spawning thing with ladyfish. I mean, boy, oh boy. Ugh. The sensitive portrayal of Nazis gets really. I really just loved how they really just gave them their due, and the U.S. chain of command, it seemed very competent. So it really made me want to go out and join the Navy. But it's a shitty movie. I'll say it's a D minus. And we loved the cartoon crab when we were kids. We loved Don Knotts' goofy fish face and his weird bellow. The songs are awful. The fucking songs are so bad.
They're not even catchy.
You can tell they're trying to be Disney songs. Yeah. They're just shitty throwaway songs that D-list songwriters made. The animation is pretty good, the cartoon looks pretty good. The underwater wreck of the ship, you're like, yeah, it looks like an underwater wreck of a ship. That looks like a real cartoon shark. That looks like a real cartoon octopus. That's about all I can give it.
Yeah.
My grade.
Like the 60s animation is the only redeeming quality.
Yeah. Overall, it gets a resounding glub.
Can we make a pact to never talk about this movie ever?
No, it's gonna come up.
It's gonna come
We've
up.
been talking about this for weeks, bringing it up, having potentially when it was gonna come up, and I'm just glad it's over.
This is like bad SNL sketch where you just keep referencing it, and you're like, why am I referencing this bad SNL sketch? For wishes can come true. Remember, kids, be careful of what you wish for because they can come true. It's like the opposite of what Disney taught kids for 80 years.
Yeah.
Wish away. Be careful.
Their
version is it's a cautious tale. Don't you not wish for
cautionary tale.
Wishes
can be shit, kids.
Yeah.
They can be just shit. The worst.
Yeah. You could turn into a fish with glasses.
On that positive note, uplifting message that this movie has brought us. Next week. So next episode. So we're going to go to Brian. Brian, lay it on us. What are we going to experience for next week?
So I want to slowly ease us back into the musical world because we've done a lot of movies, but not completely. So I'm going to go with kind of a twofer. I'm going to go with arguably one of my favorite bands, the Talking Heads.
Ooh.
Stop Making Sense. So we get an album and a movie all in once, and I think it was just recently re-released from its...
It was.
Or remastered, maybe?
Yeah, it was re-released and remastered.
Should we try and watch the remaster or the original? Or does it matter?
I'll probably watch the remastered one. I've seen the original a lot, but
I've never seen it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the fact that you both have never seen it is crazy, and it's
It is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I really like the Talking Heads. I have listened to most of their albums quite a few number of times, some more than others. But for some reason, never saw Stop Making Sense. Very aware of it, but never saw it.
Yeah,
I mean, we
director
know that-
Jonathan Demme.
We know the video.
What
Same as it
video?
ever was.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Same as it ever was.
Yeah, I don't know
The
how you
big suit.
both have not seen this. It's considering it's amazing, but
Well,
Yeah,
I will
David Byrne,
wear a large suit next week. And
kabuki suit, and
Big black suit.
I'm excited to rewatch it. It's been maybe a couple of years since I've seen it, but I listen to the Talking Heads all the time. But I figured since you both hadn't seen it, and plus we can kind of get a double out of it. So
And I am excited that it isn't. You didn't say Steely Dan. So I
be
was
careful what
bracing,
you wish for.
yeah,
bracing for impact.
yeah, exactly.
Be careful how you wish.
Be
You
careful.
might get Steely Dan.
Be careful how you wish. They don't even
Glove.
say.
It's one that's right for you.
They don't even say. Be careful what you wish for.
People find their happiness in dreaming. But dreams can fool you, and they very often do.
I'm going to
They
edit this
very
shit out.
often do.
How you wish. Remember when you start to only wish for things.
All right, folks. See you next week.
Glove.
I stopped the recording.